Good day, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Just Fish Outdoors. I'm your host, Dale York, and I designed Just Fish Outdoors to focus on freshwater lakes and streams and to provide information, tips, and techniques, along with how-to segments for catching everything from crappie to catfish. We will also provide tips on equipment, tackle, boating, and much, much more. All of this is aimed at helping you catch more fish and have fun doing it. So join us each week as we talk about my favorite subject, fishing. Also, that'll bring us to our special feature. You know, we're facing the tremendous heat of summer. Many anglers, they feel the heat, and so do the fish folks. You know, we're looking at, 100-degree days. Many anglers, between the combination of our extremely hot days, the water skiers, the jet skiers, and just the overall tremendous amounts of traffic on our area lakes, many anglers put up their rods, maybe until later on in the fall when the cooler temperatures hit. But I can tell you, folks, from experience that, sometimes can be as hot as our temperatures. Our Oklahoma reservoirs, they can get hot for bass fishing. They can get hot for striper fishing. They can get hot for sand bass fishing. Sometimes it's not a real good time to go fishing for some people. But I guarantee you can catch a lot of fish right now. When our Oklahoma reservoirs get this hot, talking about bass, bass are no different than the rest of us. They seek out any opportunity to find cooler water, shade, cooler temperatures, and that can just mean a myriad of things. Whether it's under vegetation, whether it's hiding in standing timber, whether it's the shade of a boat dock, or in some cases positioning themselves deeper in the water column. The bass are still feeding actively. You may need a couple of gallons of water and a wet towel, and you might even do what I've done in the past on some of these real hot days. I've even been known to jump off the boat in the water and swim around for a few minutes and crawl back in the boat and take off fishing again. So anything's an option when it gets this hot. But I guarantee you the fishing action can be great. As with any change in water temperature or seasonal changes, you need to adjust your tactics. There's several methods for catching bass. We'll start off with that during these ridiculous hot dog days of summer, and we're going to talk about a couple of them here in just a minute. One of the things that you really need to do is you need to prepare for these hot days. You need to make sure you hydrate yourself. You need to make sure that you got plenty of stuff to drink on the boat. Need to have some cool ice with you, and just take a few precautions if you can. One of the things we'll talk about, like I said, is we'll talk about summer bass fishing, and one of my favorite techniques to do this time of year is looking and using your sonar to find deep water fish. Using your sonar to locate fish that are in excess of 15, 20 foot deep. These fish have some characteristics that make this really a fun thing to do. They're easy to catch. By using your electronics to find these things, you can be extremely effective. And some of the things you want to look for is you don't necessarily want to find a big school of fish. Sometimes if you find a large school of bass, you'll have a hard time getting them to bite. And usually the smaller schools, or even the single or double or triple fish that you find, will be much more effective and much more aggressive sometimes than finding a lot of fish. Another attribute you want to look at is something that I've noticed over the years of catching many species of fish doing this, not just bass, but many species. The closer the fish is to the bottom, the better the chances of you getting bit. The higher the fish is in the water column, it just seems to be more of a negative mood fish. So you definitely want to try to concentrate on the fish you find that are very close to bottom, because your percentage of bites will definitely go up on the percentage of fish that you're fishing for. when the fish are located, when you find the fish, what I do is I immediately drop a 3.5-inch Gene LaRue Sweet Swimmer grub down to them, and I rig that grub on a 1/4 or 3/8 ounce head. It just kind of depends on how deep the fish is. And, if you don't have a lot of standing timber, you don't have a lot of cover, I use just an open jig head. I don't use a weed guard or anything. And then what I do is just barely yo-yo that bait up and down in front of that fish. One of the keys is to get that bait down quickly to the fish and vertically fish it. Once you get it down there, then, like I said, yo-yo that bait vertically, only moving it, maybe 3 or 4 inches at a time. And then what I also do is I don't spend too much time on that fish. If I'm on top of that fish and I drop that Sweet Swimmer down to him, I may only fish with that fish 15, 20, 25 seconds. And if he doesn't bite, then I'm off to the next one. Don't spend too much time. Usually you'll get bit pretty quick once you get that bait in front of them. And you'll find using this method that, like I said, the fish are much more aggressive than what you'll find, beating the bank sometimes trying to find shallower fish. You can just really have a blast doing this. And now, along with this, you're going to need a few little things here. One of the pieces of equipment that you're going to need on your boat to perform this technique effectively is a Lowrance HDS equipped unit. These Lowrance HDS units, especially the Gen 2 touches, are absolutely phenomenal for finding these fish and disseminating targets that are very, very close to the bottom. But these Lowrance HDS units, you won't have any trouble telling, if that fish is just, an inch or two off the bottom. You're going to know it's a fish, and you're going to know that that's something you need to be fishing for. It is a true target. So, get to your nearest retailer and check out some of this Lowrance HDS equipment, because it is absolutely awesome. And I wouldn't even think of doing this if I didn't have this stuff on my boat. It does make that much of a difference. Another key to success with this technique, is to get that lure down to that fish quickly. You need to get that lure to that fish as quickly as you see him on the sonar. And to help with this, what I recommend is a small diameter line on a spinning rod setup. I use 6/8, in some cases 10-pound test line, on a medium light spinning rod, 6.5, 6/8, 6/10, 1/4 or 3/8 ounce head. Will get that lure down to that fish very, very, very quickly, and that's what you want. Sometimes using this method, you'll experience some line twist, especially if you're fishing this lure all day long. And one of the things you can do on that is you can tie a small barrel swivel to your line and put that swimmer on there, and it will reduce that line twist significantly. It's so critical that you get that lure down there quickly, and it's so critical that you don't hop that lure sometimes, move it vertically a long ways. Just move it 3 or 4 inches. Or sometimes they want it, you just shake the lure. You don't necessarily move it. It's more of a shake than it is a hop. Let the fish tell you what they want. When you start working some fish, try several different techniques and see which one produces a bite. Try several different colors. Sometimes a color will be a key to triggering those fish, and some colors will almost make it more neutral than anything else. So, think about that as well. One of the things you can do is you can take your Lowrance HDS unit, and I've talked about this before. Before you go fishing on these days, you can go sit in your easy chair or go out in the garage and turn this unit on and start picking some of these spots out on your unit before you ever go to the lake that you may want to try to locate some fish on. One of the things to pay attention to when you get on the water is what I call the field of interest, or when you're idling out of the boat ramp and starting to look on your unit, kind of pay attention how deep the shad are or how deep the fish are. Where is the thermocline? These bass won't be below the thermocline. They'll be slightly above the thermocline or a little bit above that. And that's probably where you're going to find your most active fish during these high water temperature days. So pay attention to that on your sonar, what you're seeing, and you need to react and adjust to that where places you're looking for fish or active fish. If you're seeing a lot of shad, if you're seeing a lot of activity of fish, in, let's say, 18 to 20 foot of water, then, if you can find you a creek channel or a bend, a twist, a cliff, something that maybe comes up to 18 or 20 foot of water but immediately drops off the water to a deeper hole, then, that's one of the key places to start looking. Another thing to really, really, really take in consideration here, folks, and I can't stress this enough, many of our reservoirs, have hydroelectric situations where they generate water as the temperatures get hotter and hotter and hotter. They may generate water all day long, starting at, say, 7 o'clock in the morning, and not shut that generation off till maybe 8 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night. And that current flowing through our reservoirs will actually put those fish in specific areas. They'll position themselves in such a way to take advantage of that current and have the meals brought to them, meals on wheels, so to speak, and instead of them having to go look for the meals. So, take some of that in consideration too. Fish those downstream or the down current sides of some of these points and some of these bends. And, sometimes that's the key to finding active fish that will definitely tear you up. So, pay attention to all these things. Can be absolutely awesome time to fish. We just have to, refine our techniques, kind of back up and punt on maybe where we were fishing or what we were fishing earlier in the year and go to some of these deeper pockets. Your deeper fish are always the more aggressive fish. And in many times throughout the summertime, they're the more predictable fish. If you can find 4, 5, 6, 7 spots that these fish gang up on starting in, maybe late June or mid-June, depending on what our summer temperatures are, many times you can run that racetrack of those 6, 7, or 8 spots and find fish on maybe 3, 4, or 5 of them all the time. So, it can sometimes be a very predictable situation, and, you can get out there and take advantage of that. It's almost like a spring spawning type scenario where you may have a favorite spot in the back end of a creek or a cove that you go fish for because the fish are there every year. Hey, it's the same thing in the summertime. You can find those gold mine spots out there on these lakes, and you can catch fish there every year. It just turns around like clockwork. Another thing to consider here, too, is that, this method works on other species. You don't have to be bass fishing. If you're hybrid fishing, if you're striper fishing, if you're sand bass fishing, this technique works equally well on all of those. There's many times I've gone up, say, on Skytook in an afternoon. I live fairly close to Skytook, so it's very easy sometimes for me to get a couple hours fishing time in when I just have a couple hours to go fishing. And one of my favorite things to do is not only go up there and smallmouth fish, which I dearly love, but I also go up there and will chase around the hybrids from time to time just for a couple hours. And, this technique works equally well. I mean, you can get out there on these road beds, on these creek channels, on these long points, find these fish that are close to bottom, basically almost throw the same thing. I mean, you can throw these 3.5-inch sweet swimmers and the Jean LaRue and put this thing down in front of those hybrids, and I guarantee you, you will get bit. Now, one of the things that you've got to understand as well when you're doing this is many times the bite is very, very, very subtle. I mean, it is almost like, I don't know how many of you have ever perch fished out there, but it's almost like perch fishing. I mean, the bite is very, very light.
and you just don't realize it until you set the hook, and then you have a screaming mess on your hands with one of these 5 or 6 or 7 pound hybrids that is just smoking down the lake doing her mile an hour. The size of the fish is not indicative of the size of the bite. The bite can be very, very, very light. It's just many people describe it as a crappie tick. I mean, it's just a crappie tick. When you're down there fishing 25, 28, 30 foot of water, even though you're sitting right on top of the fish, that water depth dulls that bite coming to your rod tip. So, pay very, very close attention to what that what that lure is doing now down there, and what that line's doing attached to that lure. Sometimes you may hop that jig up and it doesn't fall. I mean, you'll just see a little curlicue of line up there on top of the water. So, you need to pay attention to that. I'll never lose contact with that bait. Even vertically fishing, do not lose contact with that bait, because many, many times that fish will hit that on the fall. And if you've lost contact or have loose line with that lure, you'll never feel that fish eat that thing. And they can spit it out almost as fast as you can jerk sometimes. So, pay attention to that as well. For sand bass, same thing. Here it goes again. You probably won't be looking in water as deep as what you're looking for with your hybrids, within certain exceptions. 10 Killer is one of those exceptions, and Skytook can be one of those as well. The bigger sand bass seem to be deeper, and in many cases, the bigger sand bass and Skytook are as deep as the hybrids almost. So, where you find one, you'll find the other. So, but the technique remains the same. The first thing you have to do is find an area where there's fish. And then you have to fish for these fish, and you have to fish for several different locations for these fish. You may find a fairly large school of fish or 2 or 3 fish, drop down to it, nothing. You may fish another area, find the same thing, drop down to them, nothing. But sooner or later, if you do enough of these, you're going to find a spot where there's enough of fish that someone's going to eat your grub. And then the race is on. Sometimes you can catch several of them in one location. Many times you can catch several of them in one location. And don't forget, it's very, very important to hit your GPS on your Lowrance HDS unit. Mark that waypoint where that fish is, or where you caught those fish. Those fish many, many times are relating to something that perhaps you're not noticing. And, kind of document what time of day, what time of year, what the water temperature was, keep good records, and you will be surprised over a period of time how often you can come back to that specific location and catch fish, matching those same conditions. It's all about sometimes good record keeping, and it will pay off big time, I guarantee you. But, another thing to consider, too, as well is, this even works for catfish. You may want to change the bait, maybe more to live bait and or cut bait, but you can go along and find these catfish areas and drop the bait down to them on maybe a 1/4 or 3/8 ounce sinker, and do the same thing. You can literally just sit right on top of them and catch them. Or you can drift through them. You can find a school of catfish many, many times and get upwind of them or up current from them, and then put your baits down and drift through them, dragging these baits through these fish, and you will catch fish. It's really not that difficult. You just need to spend some time, and I can't emphasize this enough either. This is all about reading electronics and finding the location, and you need to be able to understand and read your electronics, understand your electronics, what it's trying to tell you, and you need to have some good quality electronics on your boat that will go a long way in helping you understand and do this technique and be very, very successful at it. And like I said, the combination of Lowrance HDS equipment will definitely help you out there. And if you have some questions about maybe purchasing, which unit, which models to purchase, how to use it, how to set it up, whatever, feel free to drop me an email. That's JSTFISH outdoors at JSTFISH.com. JustFish Outdoors at JustFish.com. And I'll be more than happy to try to help you. There's people around and other resources, not just me. We'll try to answer any question you may have. We'll definitely try to help you out with your purchasing decisions and anything else that's going on there. Set up, which unit do I need to buy? How do I need to set it up on my boat? There's many models that Lowrance produces that will fit almost every budget. So, just like I said, send me an email. I'll be more than happy to help you out there, because that's kind of the hinge pin of this whole thing. It's not only the rod, the reel, the line, and the lure, which is very important, but it's also that hinge pin is the electronics. If you don't have good quality electronics, then you're going to have a big problem doing this technique and making it successful. So don't forget, folks, send us an email. Tell us how you like the show or how we can improve on it. If you have a suggestion for a topic, let us know. We'll try and put a show together for you. If you would like to know any more about Just Fish Outdoors or anything we can help with, just drop us a line, justfishoutdoors at justfish.com. You can also find us on Facebook at Just Fish Outdoors. You can send us email through there as well, or send us a message, and I guarantee you we'll answer it. We get some of those and are proud to get them. Folks, don't forget to get out and enjoy one of the many lakes or streams we're blessed to have.
Folks, thanks for listening. We appreciate it. This is Dale York for Just Fish Outdoors saying, we'll catch you later.